Hello, it's me again, back with another Shaman related video. This time, we're talking about 10.07 talents. What's the changes that are happening for the Shaman point tree, or the Shaman talent tree itself, the baseline Shaman tree. A lot of stuff is moving around in 10.07, and I kind of wanted to make a video about what it means for both Enhancement and Elemental. So it's not going to be a very long video. Comment down below what you guys think about these changes. I think that they're fantastic, along with a lot of the talent changes themselves, with things being moved around and some buffs to some of our talents. It's really good changes. I'm excited for them. I think it brings a lot more to the table for utility. The things that Shaman themselves bring to parties in Mythic Plus and in Raid. So I'm excited to talk about it. So why don't we dive right in? So right now on my screen, these are actually the talent trees for the Shaman in 10.05, and on my other screen is going to be 10.07. Now you're already going to see a big difference just in the numbers and kind of things being moved around there if you're quick with your eyes. But in 10.05 for the Enhancement Shaman, we kind of have very specific talents that we need to pick up, right? Majority of the time in Mythic Plus as an Enhancement Shaman, and I'm not an expert in Enhancement. I've only been playing it this season alone, but I feel like I'm good enough now to be able to talk about just how the Shaman talent trees kind of affect Enhancement Shaman. But obviously we do have very select Enhancement Shaman talents that we need to pick up, such as Maelstrom Weapon, such as Flurry and Frost Shock. Of course, Frost Shock for our Ice Strikes, and Hailstorm build for the Elementalist build. And I would say another kind of mandatory talent to pick up is Thunderstorm and Thunder Shock, along with Ancestral Guidance. Now, aside from that, you do have your mandatory kind of Shaman talents that you need to pick up no matter what, like Earth Elemental, Wind Shear, right? Some of your Fire and Ice. You have your improved Lightning Bolt that's getting baselined in 10.07, by the way. This is completely getting taken out, and just putting that buff itself is just being baselined to all three specs, which is good. But Ancestral Defense, right? Elemental Warding. In a lot of cases, Nature's Guardian is going to be a mandatory, as well as Plains Traveler. And in really high keys, I think you actually need to run Spirit Wolf, but I digress. There are mandatory talents that you have to pick, right? And there's not a lot of variants that you get to play with, right? You can see here that I picked up pretty much every talent for the Enhancement Shaman that I need to play with, right? Of course, Windrush going into Nature's Guardian. You could argue that you don't need Nature's Guardian, and in fact, it's harder to play around in Pugs when your healer's not really gaming your Nature's Guardian passive, right? So you could argue that you have 4 talent points to play around with, but then in Pugs, Nature's Guardian could actually save you, right? So the majority of the time when I'm swapping around talents as an Enhancement Shaman, if I need Purge in a key, or if I need Purge, or if I need Cleanse Spirits, right? If my team needs Capacitor Totem, do I need to run Guardian's Cudgel with it to have a double stun? In most cases you won't, right? Because you don't want things to be DR'd. Do I need to run Tremor Totem in an Azure Vault for the Arcane Elemental's sleep effects, which yes, it does work on sleep effects, which is really, really strong in that dungeon. So I always pick Tremor Totem in the Azure Vaults. Do I need to pick up Stoneskin Totem in a dungeon like Halls of Valor, right? For the first boss's Horn of Valor, for Fenrir's bleed effect and jump, right? Stoneskin Totem is quite strong for those bosses. Anyway, yeah, like you don't have too many points to play around with when it comes to the Shaman tree right now, when you're picking up everything that you need, right? So in 10.07 though, you get everything that you need, and then you have 2 more points arguably to play with. Well, actually, I'd say you have a total of 6 points to play with, and I'm still spec'd into Nature's Guardian. So you could argue that I have 10 points to play with, or not 10, 8 points to play with if you don't think Nature's Guardian is valuable to play or needed in some keys. So I think it's really good. So I'm going to say it's baseline in my talent builds. And now I have 6 points available to do with whatever I want. So maybe I just pick up Purge baseline just to always have it. Okay. Well, now I can spec into Totemic Projection for my Wind Fury totem if I want to move it around. Totemic Projection is off the GCD. So I can cast it while we're on the move. I'm not losing uptime on my abilities. And a big change in 10.07 is actually to our poison cleansing totem, which is extremely valuable now in Algathar's Academy. So summon a totem at your feet that removes all poison effects from a nearby party or raid member within 30 yards every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds. If I swap over to 10.05, it says summons a totem at your feet that removes 1 poison effect from a nearby party or raid member within 30 yards for every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds. So this poison cleansing totem essentially trivializes the tree boss in Algathar's Academy, becomes so much more valuable. You're pretty much always going to want a shaman in an Algathar's Academy. You could get away with obviously a priest or a paladin for their poison dispel, but poison cleansing totem is just going to be the best option now for that dungeon. So super strong, big change. Baseline, always running poison cleansing totem now, and I have the talent points to be able to do it, so it's great. I could argue that I want capacitor totem. Cleanse Spirit is now moved over here, so I can pick that up, but it's not required since I can go into Windrush Totem to gain movement speed for the group and then into Elemental Warding. Ancestral Guidance is a lot better to pick up now, and I would actually consider Mana Spring as an Enhancement Shaman to be mandatory now with how many free talent points that we have available, so that we are more of a mana battery for our healer. In 10.05, Mana Spring is kind of like off to the left here, and it requires you to go into Healing Stream Totem, Swirling Currents just to get Ancestral Guidance. I just have to go into Elemental Warding now to get Ancestral Guidance, which makes these completely trivialized, and pretty much you would only run these as a Resto Shaman now, which is fantastic. So I really like that change. You're now a mana battery essentially for your healer. Healers are going to like that, of course, and you still get to use Thunderstorm and Thunder Shock as baseline, I'd say, but you have so many talent points to play around with. If I wanted to reduce the cooldown on my totems, not really needed as enhancement, honestly. If I wanted to do Totemic Focus to increase the duration of my poison cleansing totem by 3 seconds, or my Earthbind, right, the radius of those effects, it's quite strong. So I like that a lot. You have options, essentially. You have so many options to go with. Of course, Tremor Totem, like I said, in Azure Vault, right? I mean, even Ancestral Wolf Affinity, I've never used this because it used to be over here in the talent tree, right over here, right under Sundering. Never been used, right? Healing Surge is 25% more effective on yourself. It just doesn't make any sense. Focused Insight has been moved over into that spot, and because we never use it anyway, it's fine, right? But Brimming with Life being moved up to Focused Insight, I think is really good, because there's going to be moments where, as an Elemental Shaman, you don't even pick up Frost Shock, you don't pick up Purge, you can just go straight down Brimming with Life, down to your Nature's Fury, and these things, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. Let me switch over to Elemental. So as for Enhancement, I feel like those changes are really strong. It frees up a lot of talent points on our left-hand side. Now let's talk about Elemental. For Elemental, and I'm on the 10.07 here, we get a lot of stuff. We get a lot of really good items. For the build that I'm currently running, which is the Icy Hot build, I really like the flexibility that I have here. I feel like I get a lot more of my baseline needs as an Elemental Shaman because we are very squishy. So I don't need to worry about never having Nature's Guardian. And I'd say I have 4 points to do with whatever I want, right? If I need Cleanse Spirit, if we're doing a Temple of Jade Serpent, I'm going to need that Kirsty spell. If I'm doing a not good offensive, right, I'm going to need Purge for the lightning shields on the elementals, of course, and Purge for anything else in other dungeons. That's just the one that came up to mind. If I'm playing any form of Liquid Magma Totem, I really like the fact that Totemic Surge is here now, where Surging Shields was before. Totemic Surge got moved from this place all the way over here, which we would never use, over to this position, which I think is a better node than Go With The Flow for an Elemental Shaman, because it reduces the cooldown of your Liquid Magma Totem by 6 seconds. So it's down to a 54-second cooldown from 60. I really like that. And then if I need to go into Poison Cleansing Totem, I can from that node. If we're doing an Algathar's Academy, like I mentioned. A really good change, though, that I like the most, I think, out of everything, is this section down here. Now, for both Elemental and Enhancement, this section is very good, changing from 1005. But for Elemental, going from Spirit Walker's Grace into Graceful Spirit is something that we never really had the chance of going into much before. So we're reducing the cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 30 seconds, and we get a movement speed buff. So the uptime on Spirit Walker's Grace is going to be quite handy. Going from 2 minutes down to 1.5 minutes, it's going to be quite clutch in some situations. But for Elemental, being able to pick that up and then just go straight into Nature's Swiftness, if you're playing any variation of Elemental Blast, I always recommend playing Nature's Swiftness, as you can instant cast Elemental Blast with that buff. So it's quite good. And now that we have like 4 points to kind of play around with, right? I could go Capacitor Totem if we need it, Cleanse Spirit, and Purge. Okay, now I have 1 more point for whatever utility I need. I'm never going to need Cleanse Spirit and Tremor Totem in Azure Vault, so that's going to be fine. But you're pretty much always going to use Purge in Azure Vault and Tremor Totem. So now I have 1 point that I can kind of move around. If I want to put it into Thunderstorm for positioning mobs, right? If I want to go into Mana Spring to be more of a mana battery for my healer, for my Lava Burst, that's going to be really good, obviously, for any variation of the Deeply Rooted Elements and Primordial Wave build for your healer. It's going to be quite strong. So you can just be a mana battery if you want. And in fact, if you're playing any sort of variation of the Wildfire build, Mana Spring is probably going to be a mandatory ask from your healer, I would assume. So this just gives us so many more options and utility spells for our groups. I honestly think it doesn't increase the value of Shaman too much. There are some outlying situations like Algathar's Academy with Poison Cleansing Totem. Like, you're always going to want to run a Shaman. Always. It just trivializes the boss for the tank. So that's kind of like a big outlier. But aside from that, there's no real big wow. You know what I mean? It's a lot of quality of life changes, I feel. And one of the biggest changes, I think, for Elemental specifically in 1007 is the buff to Electrified Shocks. Its duration is up from 6 seconds here on 1005. So the debuff would only last 6 seconds, but it's up to 9 seconds now on 1007, which is just going to make the rotation a lot cleaner. And if you mess up slightly, it's a lot less punishing. So that's good. But aside from that, guys, 1007 changes for the Shaman tree. Be excited about them, but don't be overly excited. Like, the only big outlier, honestly, is Poison Cleansing Totem, I think. And that's only in one situation, like I mentioned. Have fun with it, right? Kind of fool around with whatever talents you kind of want to pick up with as Enhancement or as Elemental. And kind of like shoot your shot for new utility moments there and clutch moments in your groups and pugs. But have a fantastic week. I hope everybody gets nice things in their vaults. And until next time, guys, stay tuned for more content to come. I have some guides coming out for all the various Elemental Shaman builds, like the Icy Hot, the Lightning build, and the Wildfire build. Those are going to be 3 separate videos on how to play them in Mythic Plus. 10.1 stuff coming out, maybe a little bit of enhancement guides as well. But have fun out there. And until next time, keep calm and Maelstrom on. Bye-bye.